So I was trying to figure out a way to get that 2D look, that 2D style with puppet animation. And because with traditional animation, every frame is hand-drawn on twos, and especially with limited animation with some hold frames. And in order to achieve this with puppet animation, I'll break apart the character, but I'll draw each layer on video layers in Photoshop. This will allow me to do another draw over on the next frame, and I'll do maybe 4 or 5, even 3 sometimes, depending on which layer, and these frames will loop over and over, and having various frame rates as well will give some variation within the looping animation, so not every frame looks exactly the same. That's the whole idea into trying to make this puppet animation look more 2D. Sometimes I'll do various angles. Say for the head, I'll do a 3/4 view, side view, front view, just so I can get some movement and rotation. I'll obviously be using some distortion tools or effects within After Effects to be able to get that distortion, but it's nice to have a separate angle for when something does move, I can jump to that angle. And with these video layers, I'll drop them into folders to keep everything organized, and when I color them, I'll duplicate the video layer itself and I'll just use the fill tool to color it. Once all these frames have been completed, I'll crop each one and start exporting them into their own folders as frames. This way I can just bring those frames into After Effects, and when I import those frames, I'll create a new composition at 12 frames per second, importing those layers and start organizing them within After Effects and breaking them down and linking those layers. Say for instance, anything dealing with the head, like the hair and the ears, will all be linked to the head itself. So any rotation or scaling or what have you, it will move along with the head. And same for the body parts, you can link things to the chest and whatnot. Usually for the head in puppet animation, I'll use the mesh warp tool and I'll create a grid that distorts in a specific angle, in whichever angle I push it to. And then for other body parts, I'll usually use the pin tool. I don't really do a lot of puppet animation, but I figured this might be a good way to show some tools that can be used for animation. With my feature, I've been using 3D to get the models, but this process is basically what I would be doing in 3D. Is animating a 3D rig and then exporting that. So when I'm done the animation, I'll export it with lossless with alpha, and then I'll bring it into Photoshop, and then I'll create a video layer over top, and below it just a white solid at like 50% opacity so I can see what I'm doing, and then I'll be doing drawovers. And this is the way I've done the feature. It's usually drawovers for the entirety of the head and hair and hands sometimes, depending on close-ups and whatnot. This way I can get that traditional 2D look that I want. I just love the look of 2D animations, specifically with expressions. I can get a lot more out of it. So right now I am just retiming the animation to get those hold frames at 12 frames per second, and I'm also breaking apart all the color layers, and with the color layers I'll put an inner shadow below it, and that way I can start getting some quick shadow. It's sort of a cheat. As well as with the line art, I'll pre-compose everything and I'll duplicate that layer and I'll do a threshold and I'll do a luma key on it just to get the lines. And then on the layer below, I'll do another inner shadow but set it to screen to get some edge lighting. And this way it's, you have another little cheat with like shadows and some edge light there. And yeah, that's about it. That's how I created this little piece. Hope you enjoyed it.